Miss Angie.
Miss Angie, Doc, like always, thank you. I think this is a much needed conversation that we need to have on why this is happening more often. Flow is yours.
All right. Well, we're talking about intimate partner violence today on the show, and especially how it relates to juvenile lifers. So people may or may not know. Suave, you can be more concrete about this than I can. When this happened, Miller versus Alabama. When was that?
2012.
2012. And how many juvenile lifers were released in the state of PA so far?
Damn near all of them.
Like just
average. Maybe 450.
450?
Yes.
450?
Okay,
excellent. So all of these folks came out of prison. Suave is one of them. So you were in, you were 15, and then you came out 17. I'm sorry. Then you came out 30 some years later.
31 years.
31 years later. So what happened is we had a lot of young men, really boys in a way, some of them as young as 15 or 16, spending their entire lives in prison, growing up in prison, and then they were all released, and now they're out here making their lives. And what we're talking about today is the way that a portion of these men have struggled coming out with their relationships. And we have on our show today a guest, Angie, who is here to talk about her experience with intimate partner violence and her husband, who was, can you first tell us about his story? He was a juvenile lifer. He was in the state of PA. How many years was he in prison? 25 years. Mm-hmm. And how old is he now?
44.
44. And he was released what year?
29. This year. Last year. I'm sorry.
2018. Okay. He came out. And so can you kind of just give us a start of your story and let us know how you met him? Did you go and visit him at the prison?
No. Actually, I didn't meet him until we were both at the roundhouse getting our yellow cards. And we had met that day.
We didn't. Wait, sorry, no problem. And just in case people here don't know, because we're in Pennsylvania, but we have people all over the world listening, what the roundhouse is and what a yellow card is.
The roundhouse is downtown Philadelphia on 8th and Reese. It's the roundhouse where the police and everything are, and you have to go there actually to get your yellow card, saying that you're on parole. And we have an address update. You have to go there to get your card and everything like that. And you have to show the yellow card to everyone that you actually run into that's either on the law or whatever like that. And that's pretty much where we met at. We was outside waiting. And we didn't actually talk that day because it was just a whole thing of conversation going on. But I had seen him maybe the next week because I had gotten a place to live. And I had run into him on the stairway of the subway. And we had talked for a few minutes. We exchanged phone numbers and stuff like that. And we had talked on the phone for a couple of months. It was like off and on for a couple of months or whatever. And during this time, we decided that we was going to be friends. We was going to, I was showing him around town how to get different paperwork, his gas bill, electric bill, and all that kind of stuff. Showing him around town just to get familiarized with the city again. And as time went on or whatever, we talked about being together. We talked about if I got a place that he would come live with me, if he got a place that I'll come live with him, if it went into that direction. And so actually when I got my place or whatever, it did go into that direction. And we talked so much about everything that we wanted to do, we were going to do, and we became intimate or whatever. And it got to the point where we had gotten married. He said he wanted to get married. He said he was ready to settle down. He didn't want to be out here, just running the streets and stuff like that. And, my children are older, so we didn't have no one to stop us from doing anything. He was a grown man, I was a grown woman. We made our own decision, everything like that. And yes, it was early, but when you go off the conversation that you're having with someone, you assume that this is who you are. This is what we're going to do. You're going to stick to the script of what we talked about. And as time went on, he did have a job. He had actually a few jobs. And just as I had a few jobs. And right now I still work like 2 jobs or whatever. But it was some difficulties in either him keeping a job or the physical aspects of some parts of the job that kind of held them back or whatever. So I told him that it would be okay. I would take care of what we have to take care of, but you have to be actively looking for a job. Okay, so as time goes on or whatever, we did get married June 6th, and that day was kind of uneventful. And some things I guess happened that was unexpected or whatever. His family showed up, my family showed up, his friends showed up, and we had a nice time during that evening with his family or whatever. And as time went on, as we got to be better acquainted with each other, I would say, um, some disrespectfulness was starting to come into play or whatever. And even though you see these red flags, but you try to overlook certain things. You try to like, look, okay, let's just talk about this. You learn different things that from your aspect of life. You learn different things from his aspect of life, and you're trying to put too much on emphasis of okay, what you did in your past. You're trying to hold that against no one because we all have faults. So it's just gotten to the point where so I had to go to one of his friends to ask him like, okay, give me your advice on what should I do, because knowing someone and just like knowing someone, you still don't know everything. So if I could get familiarized with a friend of his or whatever, then maybe he can give me more aspect of what to do and what not to do or whatever. So I went to his friends, I went to his mom, his sister and I had a conversation. So I'm thinking of all these things and the things that I even learned when I was in Muncie. To go about a conversation with him, and it just got.
By the way, SDI Muncie is
Yeah.
a prison in upstate Pennsylvania.
Yes, yes. So I went by the aspects of what I learned to try to get a better situation or a better understanding of what I could actually do with him and for him. So again, we had conversations. He said he understood. Then it got to the point of the disrespectfulness was just too much. And I did try putting him out like 4 times, but it was to the point where now I'm getting threatened. I'm getting my cousin to beat you up. I'm going to beat you up. It was just getting to be too much. So my last straw.
Threats to
Yes,
beat you up. Okay.
yes. My last straw was just to call his parole officer. And she asked me why wasn't I your first choice, because I didn't want him to feel as though I was going to get parole officer on. I didn't want him to feel as though, oh, now I'm going to be in trouble, or now I'm going to be back in jail. Or now, no, I didn't want that. I wanted us to actually work something out to the point where it's though, okay, we just got married. You have issues, I have issues. Let's just put that aside us and continue to on with our lives. But it just got to be like too much. So I did get a PFA to have him actually visit from the place. A PFA is protection from abuse. And like I said, he's never hit me. It was just the verbalness. And coming from a past history of abuse, it was like I can't keep taking these threats lightly. You know what I mean? And so we actually had to go to court. The judge has told him, look, you're on parole and everything, and how do you proceed? How do you see this actually coming out for you? He says, well, I know I'm on parole, but I don't really know exactly what it is that I did wrong. She said, well, we could either have a trial, and she could persuade me as to what you did on this paper, or you could sit here and say that you did X, Y, Z or whatever, and if it comes out that you did these things, then it's going to go on your parole stipulation or whatever. So he said, okay, fine, I did it, but after that, she gave us like 6 months or whatever. Then his mom came and got his things and stuff like that or whatever. And now I'll be filing for a divorce. Actually, once he's out.
So I have a question.
Okay.
You said y'all met at the Brown House getting the yellow car. So, if you don't mind sharing, what would you incarcerated for?
Aggravated assault.
Aggravated assault.
Mm-hmm.
And when you met this person at the roundhouse, did it dawn on you like this is not even right for us? Like, I mean, because I think that sometimes when we go into relationships and we both coming out of similar situations, it's almost like we both lonely. We look for something to attach each other in. Was that the case?
No, because we talked about this months before we actually got married. We talked about his past. We talked about my past. So coming into a relationship with anyone, we all have baggage. We all going to have things that come into a relationship with. If we let our past lives hinder us from starting a new relationship, none of us will have a relationship ever. So I didn't want to hold that against him. I didn't want him to hold that against me. Look at who we are now, the fact that we are set free, the fact that we have another chance at being loved, feeling love, enjoying love from the places that you didn't get it from before. So,
Yeah. Um, so the National Violence Against Women Survey estimates that approximately 1.5 million women were raped and or physically assaulted by an intimate partner every year. So it's a common thing that happens. And what I think we're focusing on today is the idea that someone who, the juvenile lifer in particular, someone who's been in prison for most of his life or many, many, many years, decades, um, what are some of the circumstances that come into play that would make that person have a propensity to perhaps either struggle with relationships or get into a kind of violent situation? And I have a few statistics here from the Sentencing Project, which is an organization that's working to end life without parole in the United States.
okay.
They collected data from 1,579 juvenile lifers across the U.S., and the average time served by these prisoners was 15 years, and almost a fourth of them had been incarcerated for at least 21 years. As children, more than 2/3 of the juvenile lifers saw illegal drugs sold where they lived, and 1 in 3 had resided in public housing prior to being incarcerated. More than half saw acts of violence in their neighborhoods weekly. Most, 79%, according to a survey, witnessed violence directly in their homes, while nearly half, 46.9%, experienced physical abuse. Overall, 1 in 5 had been sexually abused, a rate that increased to almost 4 in 5 among female juvenile lifers. Quote, "Violence is a learned behavior," Ashley Nellis wrote, "and when it is demonstrated by adults in a home environment as a tool to resolve problems, children internalize this, and without intervention are prone to repeat it."
Wow. So I ask you a question.
Okay.
When you saw the red flags, why didn't you end that relationship then?
Actually, I did. I ended it like 3 times. I had stopped talking to him the first time for a month. Then the second time, I stopped talking to him for maybe like 3 weeks. But
But I was living in the same household.
no.
Nope.
Because he was at the halfway house in North Philly, and I was actually in a transitional house in Germantown. So we were just like phone conversations, and then when we did meet up or whatever, we would meet up, we would talk about things and stuff like that. And some of the things that I wasn't comfortable with, we talked about. Some of the things he wasn't comfortable with, we talked about. And again, when we go all over the fact that, okay, this is what you did, or this is what I did, that we're not going to do this again, you take that into consideration. Okay, well, you're not going to do this again. This is what hurt your feelings. This is what did this. This is what happened, and you want to believe them that this is not going to happen again.
So we being clear, he never hit you.
No.
So it was all verbal and mental abuse.
Yeah.
And as you're hearing the people out there, we're having a deep conversation on domestic violence. I just want to give some numbers out there for anybody that's going through some domestic violence. You have to call the domestic violence hotline, 866-723-3014. And for anybody that's experiencing abuse, or if you think you're abusing your partner, you also can get help. They got a group in Philly called Menergy 215. 242-23-22-35. These are places where we can go help. You can go seek help at any time. We'll be right back. We're going on a commercial break. You're listening to a Justice Conversation on Usala Radio.
There's a lot of fear in coming back to school. I wasn't sure if I could do it. I'm a 40-year-old man that walked in there to get his high school diploma. It was very hard for me, but the teachers, the counselors, they help you. One of the teachers was Miss Araceli. Miss Araceli, she gave me direction. Every single time I had a question, she'll put down whatever she's doing and she'll come over and she'll sit there with you until you get it. Thank you, Ms. Araceli. I know you make a difference in people's lives because of the person and teacher you are. I wanted to be here because I wanted to thank you for helping me get a beautiful gift. 50% of getting your high school diploma is walking through those doors. The other 50% is doing the work. Getting your high school diploma, it is a life-changing experience. It really is.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
In terms of these kinds of issues. You know, we're not necessarily excusing people, but we also need to understand that violence is intergenerational. You know, that trauma is intergenerational. It can be passed down the grandparents to the parents to the children, right? And then for us as a nation, you know, kind of having this hyper incarceration, you know, focus that we do have, and locking up, you know, millions and millions of people, many of them black and brown people, then how do we kind of hold ourselves in terms of a nation, that we have all this violence that is being perpetrated inside families, and then in some ways the recipients of that violence, which are children, right, are the ones that grow up to then perpetrate more violence, right? Does anyone want to talk about that cycle and how that matters?
You know, I say this, that most juveniles get sent to prison for violent crimes, and prisons are a violent place. You know, so, and when they get to prison, they don't get the kind of services or therapy that's needed to begin that healing process.
Yes.
So they spend 30 and 40 years in the prison system, having to defend for themselves, and the most part, it's a violent place. You know, and upon release, they're just thrown out to fend for themselves.
Yes.
I say that all juvenile lifers or anybody that's been in prison over a year should come home and receive some form of therapy. I think that anyone that served over 25 years or more should come home and just take time for themselves, not get in no relationship, and be selfish. Sometimes you gotta be selfish, you know, and being selfish, somebody's feeling probably gonna get hurt because your partner might be deeply in love with you, but I'm not ready for that. You know, and there's a reason why I'm not ready for that. You know, but sometimes, and let's be fair here, sometimes we have some women that just want that relationship. You know, they want it now. And me coming home from prison after 30 years, I'm seeking that kind of attention.
Yes.
I want that family bond.
Yes.
You know, so we shacked up, we married, whatever. They said, you know, I got a bunch of baggages. You got a bunch of baggages that are coming to the surface that none of us know how to deal with it. You know, none of us know how to deal with it. And the end result is what we see here now. You know, women's filing PFA, or even worse. In this case, you know, I'm glad that her husband never put his hands on her. You know, I'm glad, but it could have been worse. Could have been worse, you know. But like I said, I'm glad that he never put his hands on her. But the fact that a juvenile is on parole for life, that's like a guaranteed ticket to jail. And we also have, like I said, and I'm gonna keep it fair. We also got to be fair that some women feel that they know you on parole for life, so they're gonna hold that over your head. You either be with me or you ain't gonna be with nobody else. I'm holding your parole. I'm not saying that this happened in this case, but it happens sometimes. And so, so my advice to the brothers is come home, take time, go to therapy, man. It's nothing wrong with going and talk to somebody about what you think a relationship is. There's nothing wrong with that. It can be very helpful and it will keep you out of jail. At the same time, I tell the sisters, like, if you know somebody that came home after 30, 40 years, give them some breathing space. Don't try to lock them down, because if it's for you, it's going to be for you. Because you might move too fast and might not like what you see later on. And that conversation we was having earlier, prison visiting room relationships do not translate to a real relationship in the street. Because when you come to prison, you only know me for that 1 week and how I act that one day. You don't know how I live. You don't know what I really like to eat. You don't know how clean I am. You don't know these things till you live with a person. So I say, take one step at a time, baby steps.
Well, and also, I think that's so important what you said about the visiting room relationships, because those are relationships that are highly controlled, right? You're under the watchful eye of a guard. You're not really allowed to touch for for more than a few minutes or something like that, right? Also, both people are on their best behavior during that time, right? People are coming there in a very limited way. So then I think it's so wise what you said, that you can come to think, especially if the person's visited you time and time again, right? I'm talking about a romantic relationship now. Maybe they've come for a few years or something like that. You can come to think that this is, exactly what your relationship would be like, or that it's a completely solid relationship, but it's actually a relationship that is in some ways, I don't want to say false. I don't mean that people don't feel very strong feelings for each other, but that it's not representative of what it's going to be like when you're actually outside.
Right, it's not, because, see, in prison, we could say we love each other. I'm seeing for that 1 hour, for months and years. I don't, I might be in prison. You're the only person I have out in the real world. So you all I see. Now I'm free. I have a selection. I have choices. I have options now. Like, I can see you might not like that. You might take that as a sign of disrespect. I put 10 years into this relationship and going to see you. I sent you commissary money. I took all your phone calls. I wrote you all the letters. I was there, for your birthday. And now you want to come home and look at another woman. That could be offensive. And that could be, a person could take that, real deep.
Yeah.
And I put myself in that shoe. If I did that for somebody and that person did that to me, how would I feel? So I understand. But the women also need to understand that you're dealing with a person that been in a place where he never had a chance to deal with his trauma. Yes. Either with his childhood trauma or incarceration trauma.
Right.
So being free is almost like, wow. Now I'm having second thoughts about, I like you, I love you, but I don't think you're the one I want to be with.
Right.
And for a lot of brothers that have been in prison, they went in as 15, 16, 17. We're coming out middle-aged man now.
Yes.
45, 46, 47, 48. So we thinking about having families and kids. So, so all that plays into the psyche of if this relationship really going to work.
Right. Also, I think what's really important about what you're saying is that you've been in prison all those years, and you haven't really been able to have relationships with women. I mean, there might be this one woman that came up and visited you, or maybe a few, right? But it's like if you had been living on the outside for 30 years, you might have had live-in marriages, whatever relationships with a dozen or more women, right? So you have this very limited experience of women, and then when you come out, it's not that experience of being in the world with women is going to be radically different than it was in prison.
It's a different experience.
Yeah.
And it's a gratifying experience when you walk around and a woman look at you and say hi for the first time after you come from home serving. You like, oh, you got it. And I'm pretty sure a woman feels the same way after coming home from doing time. We all want to be loved and want, but we have to be realistic. Is that relationship going to work?
Yes.
And I just can't miss something that you said, like, we both met at the roundhouse. And she said that she was in prison for aggravated assault. Not that it played into this relationship, but it's almost like, oh, man, in another time, in another world, I'd be like, oh, we got to consider this. Because we both coming out, we both had that prison mentality, which could be a crash.
What were you going to say?
Well, I think also again, if you're coming out from whether it's a long marriage, a long jail sentence, or whatever, if you're coming out with the aspects of actually getting therapy, then treat that therapy as therapy. Don't go in pretending to be in therapy to try to please someone else or to try to say so. Oh, I went to therapy, so I already know this, I already know that. If you're taking someone on their word, then you yourself should be truthful to yourself about your word. If you're going to tell me that you love me, then show me that you love me. Be truthful to being loved. And not only that, if I give you options of whether or not you really want to do this right now or do it later, and you come to me 100%, I'm ready for this, I'm ready for this, I'm ready for this, then again, I'm taking you for your word that you're ready for this. So again, whether I'm just coming out of jail, whether I'm just coming out of here or whatever, he was in jail for murder. So yeah, maybe I should have said, no, I shouldn't do this. But no, again, I put all that aside, put all your past aside. Let's go on from here because again, you may have been abused, Missy Vine may have been abused, I may have been abused. But again, if we allow that to hold us back from future endeavors, we won't do anything. We won't be able to accomplish the book that we want to write. We won't be able to accomplish the other things that we want to get accomplished if we keep letting past stuff hold us back.
Yeah, but at the same time, we got to use common sense and say, you know what? I am not ready for a relationship. I am not ready to be married. We have to, whether somebody's feelings get hurt or not, because that could determine somebody's life. We talking about people going back to prison. We talking about people getting hurt. So we can't let our gratification dictate, or blindside us. Because today, me personally, I know I'm not ready to be living with anybody because I still have issues that I never dealt with when I was in prison. I still have a lot of trauma of being incarcerated for 30-something years that I never dealt with. See, I realized that today. Before I probably would have said, I'm heading, heck it. But I realized that. And to save somebody else from getting hurt mentally or physically, I'd rather say, you know what, I'm not ready for this right now. Well, and maybe we can talk, and I don't mean to cut you off, maybe we can talk later on. But to say I'm giving you options to somebody that's been in jail for 25 years with no treatment up on going to prison or up on leaving prison, it's a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing. And I'm not saying it wasn't your relationship, I'm talking about in general, that's a dangerous thing. I believe that every brother that come home from prison should enter some form of treatment before they get into a relationship. And right now, we're going on a commercial break. You're listening to a Justice Conversation on Upsala Radio. Like I said, if you're having domestic issues in your relationship, you can call 866-723-3014 and you can seek some help. We'll be right back. You got
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Because of you, I feel not alone in this world. And you let me know that it only takes one person to make you feel wanted.
Oh, man. Get it, man.
Our hearts are made stronger by how we treat others.
Put her there.
The light you share can impact those around you, but so can the darkness.
Later, twerps. Did Pete saying mean things bother you?
So when you reach out to another person, take a moment to consider how they will feel and let your heart be the key to making a difference. Because of you, someone's entire day, year, or even life can change.
In every heart, there's hope.
Bless you.
Welcome back to a Justice Conversation. You're listening to a topic that a lot of people don't want to hear. I see y'all tuning in on Facebook, tapping in. You know, this conversation got to be had. We'll keep having it. You know, so before we went on the commercial break, we wanted to say something.
Yes. And I'm sorry for all the interruptions that I was, but you know, as you get older, you try to get the things out before they leave your head. But as again, we talked about treatment. We talked about the fact that we could go to therapy. That wasn't an option for him. He feels as though he didn't need therapy at that time. So again, I'm taking you on your word as if you know what you're doing. And if someone keep beating your head, well, I've been with women, I did this, and then later it's like, okay, well, I never did this. Well, you're only setting yourself up for a failure if you come into a relationship and you're lying to yourself. Because again, if you're given those options to not do this right now, let's wait. And again, we wasn't even intimate until we actually moved in with each other. I wasn't going to be intimate with someone and then he have to go back to a halfway house or I have to go back to a transitional house. It just wasn't happening that way. So we went off of each other's words. We went out to dates. We went to breakfast, lunch, dinner, all types of things. So as time went on, we had these conversations over and over again. Are you sure you're going to do this? Or at this time, you're sure you're going to do this? Do you think you're ready for this? And so again, when someone's telling you, yes, I'm ready for this, I can handle this, I can do this, I can do that, then you want to take them for their word. So again, the treatment. If you want to go to treatment, then be truthful to yourself in this treatment. Don't go in there being boastful. Oh yeah, well I'm this, I'm the man, I'm the woman. No. If you have issues, let's talk about those issues. But if you're saying that you're 100% okay and you know you're not, and then you're being mental already abusive to the person that you're with because they're believing you. But then when your actions show something different, okay, now you don't know what the hell it is. As far as the therapy. If we're going to go to therapy, then let's be truthful in the therapy. Don't just have the gift for gab of saying, okay, well, X, Y, Z, and I know the Bible, and I know this, and I know that, and I know this. Because in reality, what do we really know when it comes to actually getting to know someone? If you're with your partner for 50 years, do you really know that person? Because on the 51st year, that person could change. So you asking yourself, what did I really know? But again, you're taking them for their words. You're taking them for the way we talked about things playing out. And if the things don't play out the way you say they are, okay, let's make some arrangements. Let's do this, let's do that. And then you see it's just not working, then you still have an option to either stay there or leave. And when you give someone the option, well, look, let's just part, let's just do this. And they still telling you, well, I could do this. You're my wife, you're my husband, we're going to do this together. And if the actions don't add up, then you're left to pretty much defend for yourself.
So now that you went through this experience in your relationship,
yes,
what would you say to the next person that's meeting a juvenile lifer and they're planning on marrying them and moving in with them? What would you say? What would your advice be to that person?
Truthfully, to make sure they're going to be truthful to themselves. Because again, whether it's a juvenile lifer or anyone else that just gotten off of off of anything, off of someone just got out for drugs. If they're not going to be truthful to themselves, then it's not going to work. If you're telling me I'm going to be 100% truthful to you, I'm faithful to you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, then do what you say you're going to do. Don't feed me no pudding when you know I like steak. You know what I mean? So that's the advice that I would give to them.
So when you call his parole officer, no names.
Okay.
What was her advice to you?
Her advice actually was the fact that she said, look, you did pretty much all you can do. Even when she came to me and I told her that I would be responsible for him coming out of the halfway house, I told her what I was about, showed her who I was, showed her what I was willing to do, and everything. We had a conversation. She said, you did all the things you should have did. I just would have preferred you to come to me first. I said, again, I didn't want to put him in front of you first because I didn't want to feel as though I was ratting on him or anything like that. So I went to the people that I felt that was closer to him because, again, you only know him pretty much on paper. You know what I mean? You don't know him just as I didn't know him to the sense of now, to the point of like just knowing him. But these people have known him. They grew up around him or whatever. So I feel so if I could go to them and get some type of information, some type of feedback or whatever, then I would have a better chance of getting through to his mental state in a sense of not just his wife. You know what I mean? So again, when his parole officer even came out to the house, she said, look, you did what you could do. And I appreciate you even stepping up to the plate of doing this because no one else accepted them into their house. No one wanted to be bothered with the situation. So I just felt like I did what I could do.
So let me be more blunt.
Okay.
Did the parole officer encourage you to file a protection order?
She said what you can do is when you get him, if you have to put him out or whatever, because of the threats, she said, I think you should get a PFA. Because of the threats, not just to have something on this man, because he was threatening me, is on my video that he hopes somebody else break me up, that his cousin's going to beat me up, that he's going to beat me up. This was seen in front of people. So it's not just the point of his parole officer telling me, oh yeah, get a PFA. You're threatening me. I live by myself.
Can we say here too that for 90% of the intimate partner violence in the United States is perpetrated by men against women. 90% of the victims are women. And that the aspect that can be very dangerous for women is when they do get the protection order. Because often, and you're pointing this out, I think, Angie, the violence escalates. It doesn't just begin with it's one and done, right? It may begin with threats, as you're suggesting, and then it might escalate to more and more and more. Also, it's important, I think, to note that intimate partner violence is bodily violence. So it's not a gun or a knife held to your head. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. That's all I mean. But that it's being beaten up. It's being raped. That's a violence done to the body. That's how it usually happens. So it needs to be said, you mentioned that you were in SCI Muncie. That is a state prison, and some of the women there who are lifers are there for killing their abusers. Yes. And so when a woman